I don't wanna, James. I don't want to welcome our guests to Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. Everyone, I think, is highly anticipating this episode.
Why is that, Alex?
On other news, I'm glad after corporate headquarters of DirecTV reached out to James and sent someone special to their house.
Oh, yeah.
To resolve their internet.
Wait, am I freezing to you guys?
It's still fuzzy and...
But it's better?
It hasn't frozen. Tim's still muted. What the Why do you do that?
It's so
I was typing because I was working on our Jamie Chadwick YouTube video, and I didn't want you guys to hear me typing.
Why don't you
pay attention for 45
us?
Minutes?
Yes.
Jesus.
What were we talking about?
How much you suck.
You know what? He hasn't frozen. And it was very good internet during the Jamie Chadwick interview, which if you have not listened to part 1 of our interview with Jamie Chadwick, it was really good.
No, I will admit it is better. It's still not I don't think what you're paying for.
We should wait, do you have Starlink on your bus? Is that what I saw sitting outside your bus?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is such a smart move.
It's really
I didn't know you had
too.
it
was really
at the
good.
bus.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm probably just gonna have to Starlink it. But then
It's
do
amazing.
I just have to have some little thing just sitting on my lawn the whole time?
They make ones that mount on your roof, James, that you'll never even see.
Okay. Perfect. They thought of everything.
Yeah. Dude, they even have this feature that melts snow. So it automatically detects snow and it melts it so that you have never
I think they
interrupted
just call
signal.
that feature heat.
No, but you're right. But it's still pretty.
Knowing Elon is probably laser beams shooting individual snowflakes as they fall. Guys, space is cool and technology is cool and I love it all. I will, but I do have to give Xfinity credit where Xfinity's due. No, you know what I mean. But we were complaining about my internet on the show, and somebody who listens, I think I don't forget if it was you, Alex, or you, Tim, was like, if somebody from Comcast is listening, well, guess what? They were, and they tracked down my information. A little questionable about how they got a hold of all of my contact information, but appreciated because they got in touch and sent out somebody to the house who replaced all the hardware in my house and outside of my house and on the street level to try and improve the quality of the link. Which even he admitted, he was like, it's not the best, but it's much better than it was when I showed up. And so far we've had no issues. So it is a net improvement.
Yeah. It's going well now. Yeah.
Yeah. I applaud Xfinity.
It is interesting because as I
Comcast.
started talking about it, you've actually cleared up and are not blurry anymore. So
I'm going to blame Riverside on this and say that they fixed it. I'm going to say Xfinity.
I'm definitely not blaming. I'm not giving them
problem.
any sort of credit. That's terrible.
all right. So anyways,
Wait, who are you not giving? You're not giving Riverside credit, or you're not giving Xfinity credit? Yeah.
No, Riverside.
We got to keep people here, so let's not quite get into Iowa. And by Iowa, I mean St. Louis. Wow.
We're on a tight ship. This is what you guys wanted me to give my full attention to.
Let's talk about Tim. You were in Indy for a while. You spent quite a bit of time here, but how was your trip? How was your month in Indy? How was your summer away?
I'm going to say I came with the sole purpose of building a bar in your backyard, and we didn't do that. So I'm going to say
another thing you let us down on.
So here's the problem, Tim. You have this idea, and then these things you kept sending me were thousands of dollars. So
Yes.
if you wanted to do it that bad, you have a credit card.
No, see what? Well, I wanted you to pick one first.
Right.
We could have discussed that. I wanted to build it from scratch. So I wanted to get one of those $10 plans. And in my head, you and I would go to the hardware store and get the wood.
And
We'd
saws.
borrow. Yeah, well, I mean, my brother has a saw. He lives around the corner.
You need more than
borrow
a saw. But yeah, okay.
He's got a lot. He works for a construction company.
Right.
And then that was what I pictured in my head. You were like, absolutely not. We're not going to do that. Which is a fair response. But it
So
did,
Alex, you didn't want
put us
to
on the
build
back
one
foot.
from scratch?
James, I'm sorry. You know me, and you certainly know Tim. We do not have the architectural capabilities to build a structure.
So
I mean,
I've heard that
we we would have had the design. We would have just said like, hey, get a piece of wood, cut it to
like
this
a
length and put it here.
glorified Lego set. But here's the thing. I do know that about you, but I also know that you love like diving headfirst into without any preparation whatsoever. So like, it wouldn't have surprised me if you just like came home from Lowe's one day with $6,000 worth of equipment and materials.
You're right, but I also know my limits. Like, and that is well exceeding my limits.
Saws, things where digits can be removed. That's where you draw the line.
It's not even that. It's like precise measurement of building materials. Like that's just not. No.
Measure twice, cut once, man. It's easy.
But I don't do that. I measure once, cut 17 times with 25 trips to the hardware store to get more wood. Like that's just not.
Eyeball it once, measure it again, then
Like I don't know all of the little lines on the ruler, so I'm like, so 3 past the half-inch line. All right.
Oh man. You know, if we were using metric, that'd be super easy because 2 past the 5 would be 7.
This is freedom country. We don't do that stupid.
Yeah.
God damn it. You guys are the worst.
We probably should do that for like construction though. Why haven't we made that switch? Is it just because all the infrastructure already has Imperial?
It could
but it's not. You could switch it. It doesn't matter.
99% of engineers, even in the States, use metric.
I don't think that's true. Construction, they do not.
Yeah, construction, we still
like
use
the architecture.
Like have you heard of a 2x4, pal? That's metric.
I understand that. I did say engineers. I didn't say construction workers. Anyway, does this mean that the Tiki Bar plans are just completely scuppered and we're never going to see that?
This was never my idea.
To it.
Oh, okay. So Tim, what you need to do is you need to do a fundraiser. You need to like bake some cookies, maybe have some lemonade,
sell some,
raise some money,
wrapping paper,
sell some more organs, whatever you've got left.
Well,
I did the opposite of sell that organ.
Yeah. He's going to have to raise money for a different reason, it would seem.
So, Alex, you also have had a big thing happen in the last couple days. Your golf game took a whole new level.
Oh, dude. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm now like Googling applications to live because I'm ready. Like I'm signing up on a $400 million 10-year deal.
Basically a scratch golfer.
Oh, dude. I birdied a hole before I parred one. Like that is elite. That is elite golf right there.
Let it be known, he still has not parred one. No, but he has birdied one.
Imagine I just birdie everything. Like,
he just
I don't even need to deal with par.
Never hits par.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you only ever birdied, you'd be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I feel like 18 under is a pretty solid score in golf. Again, I'm not well versed in this game.
Right,
but
that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I'm submitting my application to live is because that's clearly the next step.
So of the 18 holes you played yesterday, how many did you birdie?
Well, the one.
Right. Was it the last one?
No.
Okay, so you birdied and then proceeded to do more not birdieing.
Or parring. Correct.
Yeah, I see the flaw in your plan. We'll talk offline about this.
To see where it unravels.
Well, yeah. Hey, maybe Liv won't take me, but the PGA will for sure.
They all need some good press right now.
Right.
Well, congrats.
So I thought aren't they the same now? Didn't that happen?
I don't even know.
So this was my 4th attempt at playing golf on a golf course. I have had 5 lessons, 6 lessons, and I have been like swinging in like a sim studio. I would say 4 or 5 times. So I've been trying to put the time in. It takes a lot of time, as we all know. Very challenging game, but yesterday the first 9 holes were pretty much par for the course in the sense that I sucked massively and like. I was like, oh, what's after a quad bogey? They're like, we don't count it. I'm like, cool. So it was just going as it would. And I got to the turn and had to go buy more balls. And like, it was just, this game sucks. And then honestly, man, like it clicked a little bit. Like holes 10 through 16 were like pretty good for me. And it kind of stayed that way honestly through the whole rest of the back nine. Only lost like one ball. Was able to like actually hit my driver. Can't putt for can't chip for but like I can actually hit the ball now fairly consistently, which is like for me a pretty big deal. So that was nice. Like I feel like golf is weeks of misery surrounded by like 25 or 30 minutes of a glimpse of happiness. And that's what keeps you coming back, much like racing.
Oh, so it's racing.
I was just going to say, that's why drivers can relate to golf so much, is that one good swing or that one good hole just keeps you hanging on for the other 17 miserable experiences per game. That's cool. Well, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's improving. That's fun for everybody.
What did you do, James?
Yesterday?
No, like since Iowa or
what is wrong with you?
since Gateway.
He's trying so hard to block out St.
No,
Louis.
dude, here's the thing. Since Iowa race 2, I haven't finished a race.
You only started one.
Well, that's fair. Well, you know what? This has actually been a really nice week because, so obviously Gateway was a Saturday. So I drove home after, the race. And so Sunday and then for, Portland, I don't actually fly out till Friday morning.
Nice.
So having like Sunday to Thursday at home has been huge because, you know, we were gone for like a month, you know, we were up in Canada for a long time. So just like having the time to get done around the house and like catch up on everything I've been ignoring, mainly bills and accounting stuff.
Were you home by choice or just your yacht was full?
Wait, this week?
Yeah.
No, by choice. By
Okay.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's not a problem. No, it's been very nice. And although Becky tweaked her back out working out the other day. And so I've had to be like nurse practitioner,
Nurse husband,
which is fine because she's done more than her fair share of nurse wifing for me in my days of hurting myself. So, but yeah, so no, it's been good. It's been good. And we're going to play some racquetball, which I'm excited about because racquetball
You and your wife?
fun. No, you and me, you idiot.
hell yeah.
My wife and I played some tennis. So Becky and I have been playing a lot of tennis.
Have you got Becky in the arena yet?
No, not yet. Not yet. Yeah, I need to.
Today
I need
the
to
day?
see. Back still a bit off. I don't think that's the right move today. But yeah, we'll look into that for sure. But no, we've been playing tennis and like we started off pretty bad. Like we could get it over the net, do all that stuff, whatever. But like recently, and we were by no means good, but like by our standards, we have some like just for no reason by osmosis watching the Olympics got like decently better at tennis. And 2 days ago had like some really good competitive games going to like multiple deuces and stuff like that. So that's been fun. So playing a lot of racket sports, Alex, cleaning up the house. Becky's in a spring cleaning mode in August, which is bad for me. There's lots of clutter in our house apparently. So we're going to have to declutter stuff.
It's tough.
Now, don't use the background that you guys are seeing as an example of that because this is the most cluttered room in the house by design. It's the only room that I was allowed to have decor influence over. And so I just crammed all my in here. And so it is. It's a mess,
Same.
but I love it. Yes, exactly. But yeah, so that's probably tomorrow's plan is some spring cleaning. Yay. When do you head out to Portland?
I go tomorrow, bro, because even though we don't practice till 3:00, we still find it necessary to have a 4 p.m. meeting on Thursday. So,
Yeah, that's fair.
is it
We gotta work on that. We gotta bring Friday morning practices back.
or just have your meeting at 9 a.m. on Friday?
That
Well, I
too.
guess that doesn't help.
Isn't
me,
there a track
but
walk?
Also true, but
Yeah. Let's just practice on Friday morning.
yes, correct.
Let's just do that.
All right.
So
well, now
I have
that we've lost everybody who specifically downloaded and started to listen to this podcast to hear us talk about St. Louis,
no, I'm not done.
let's talk about St. Louis.
on Twitter, right? Do you guys see these tweets that are like, they're tweet threads? It's like such and such a thread, and it's like 15, but you have to like click on it and scroll through things. I guess I clicked on one of these once, and now it's all that comes up on my feed. And
is the one you clicked on hottest Olympians from the 2024 Paris Games?
No, weirdly, that one has not popped up. Mine's like most beautiful.
Me neither.
Mine's like abandoned cities or most beautiful beaches or like random stuff like that. But I get super drawn into this and I hate it. Now that I've clicked on more than one, they just keep popping up and it's bad. It's very annoying. Also announced, totally complete pivot, but officially NBC announced that Diff is taking over the play-by-play on NASCAR broadcast. So big congrats to Lee Diffie. I'm sorry that we're losing him from the IndyCar side. It's a bummer, obviously, but happy for him. And congrats to Kevin Lee for the official assignment, even though he's been doing it for a while now. We'll see out the season as play-by-play for NBC. And yeah, I guess we should talk about Gateway now. So Alex, how was Gateway?
So
we went to Gateway kind of thinking, trying to be optimistic, but kind of thinking it was going to be a dog race.
Yeah, we were. And here's what's weird, James.
Tell me.
I don't know necessarily why it wasn't.
I mean,
because it had to have been, actually, that's not true. The problem is, and I don't know why, I really don't understand why we do this. I'm not faulting anyone for this, but it still doesn't make sense to me why we do it. So Will and I had a manufacturer test day on the new downforce level with the hybrid weight. We talked about the results that came out of that. Not super awesome. And then a lot of teams use their Indy Lights day to go to Gateway. And same downforce level, all this sort of thing. The results of that were a little better, but not super awesome. So it was like, okay, it was a little better because there was more cars there. There was more rubber going down, that sort of thing. It was a little bit cooler temps. The test ended at night. So like the optimism was a little bit tempered because it was like, whatever. Then we get to the race and it's the same downforce level, the same weight. It's hot as shit. But what's different is it's a different tire that none of us had been on. Right. So all of this testing. Had
somebody else gone back and tested after your test with this tire?
So the Indy Lights test got one set of what was going to be the race tire. But that one set everyone put on at the end and it was nighttime and all this stuff. So everyone's read from it was like, well, was it the tire or was it because the track temp was 30 degrees cooler or this sort of thing? So anyways, There was thousands of laps turned by 12 plus cars. 14 plus cars, but virtually, I would say 5% of them were on the correct tire, right? So we had all of these ideas and philosophies and everything based on the wrong tire. Anyways, we show up to the weekend, practice one's in the heat. It's back to kind of a standard oval schedule. So everyone spent all of practice one focusing on qualifying sims. Qualifying happened. We'll get into that in detail in a second. And then practice two was at night and it was super racy. And I was like, oh man, this is awesome. Too bad the race isn't at night because everyone again assumed that it was dark. So usually when it's dark, track temp goes down, ambient goes down, everything just gets easier. The cars are happier, better racing. Well, fast forward to the race and it was not a night race, obviously. And it was still banging. So I think that what we see here is as much as the downforce level, ultimately, yes, it does matter. As much as tire deg is important, even though we didn't have any tire deg at Gateway, I'm getting there. Ultimately, the biggest control of how we have a good race or not is the tire being a good tire. And I don't mean good in the sense that safe, reliable, all this sort of thing, but a tire that is within the grip limits of, what the car needs. Doesn't produce a crazy amount of marbles so that lane 2 is super because deg, we've always said makes good racing, but that's usually in my mind, kind of a Band-Aid for, a tire that isn't really working really well with the car. So at least what you're going to have is the end of stint. Some cars are going to be better than others. So that's going to create an effective racing. But ultimately, the tire is going to control the product. And so I think Firestone, in conjunction with IndyCar and obviously the downforce level and that sort of thing, nailed it. And the result was we got a badass race. So congrats to those involved. And I hope that we can somehow reverse engineer this, right? And be like, okay, these are the elements of this tire that made this product. How do we now apply this to other ovals? Because that's what we have to do. Yeah.
I mean, we haven't done Milwaukee and Nashville yet, but who knows, Yeah. So you brought up Deg. Deg wasn't Iowa
no
Deg.
Deg.
It was just 0.
Yeah.
It can't be 0 though, because at the end of the race, you had guys on fresh tires, like driving around guys on 40 lap tires. So it can't be 0.
So no, it was 0. I think you had two things. Vibrations are still a thing that happen, and that's not Deg. That's rim slip. That can be a multitude of different things. And then also, Firestone tires from used, whether you're on a road course, street course, oval, whatever, they are harder to fire up on a restart than new tires.
Right. Okay.
They're just harder to get going. I don't know if it's because they're hot, so they pick up some of the that's on the track under yellow and that sort of thing, but they don't come alive as much as they would normally. But no, there was no Deg. I'm not kidding you. There was over 50% of tire life left from a wear standpoint at the end of a full stint.
So basically, like ultimate peak lap time's the same, but the fire up takes a little bit longer on a more used tire.
Yeah.
So that's why on a restart,
yes,
like Linus was able to drive around Pillow and drive around Herda at the end there.
Correct.
Because he had newer rubber. Okay, that makes sense. It was a very confusing race from a strategy standpoint.
Yes.
Fuel was so different from last year because of the added downforce, which yes, adds drag, but more importantly just means that you can carry so much more throttle through the corner. So the drag's only a small part of it. It's actually just physically your right foot being used more. And because practice is practice and whatever, and the way the yellows fell in the race, from us in the booth, when you don't have telemetry and you don't have all the information, nobody did like a full tank green flag flat out stint to really give us a good indication of what the numbers were. And so the number of times that I'm just putting my hand up, the number of times that Townsend and I were just flat wrong by a good margin was plentiful, because we were like really guessing at what the mileage was and like what you could get out of a tank based on, saving whatever. And, thank God for like Dylan and Georgia in the pits actually talking to people on timing stands to keep us honest, because there were times we're like, oh, he could definitely make it from here. Then we go down to Dylan. Dylan's like, definitely doing a splash on the number 3. And we're like, wait, what? But what? There was 4 different strategies within the first 100 laps, because everybody, a different group would take yellows. And so there was just so many different split things. It was mayhem. It was hard to keep track of. What was consistent is that the Penske cars were very good. Our Ericsson was having a great race before his failure. Malukas was having a great race before his incident. You were having a great race before your incident. There was just so much going on. There was a lot of good racing, but then there was just a lot of like good strategy, and it was so hard to keep up with. It was like, I feel almost bad for the viewers at home, because I feel like we needed 3 more people and 6 more laptops worth of data to really tell the story accurately.
Yeah. So the reason that this race unfolded like this, is because as much as it was a good race and it was not impossible to follow cars and pass, it's still very difficult. And because there's no Deg, all everyone is doing is trying to play an overcut game, right? And the reason for that is because IndyCar this year, which is new to Gateway, implemented a 2-stage pit limiter on pit exit. And it's for safety reasons and like whatever. I don't like fine with me. But we haven't had that in years past. And so what that means is your time lost to pit is increased by like 6-ish seconds, which means that if you are not within like 7 or 8 seconds of the leader. Instead of losing 1 lap, you lose 2 laps. And as we all know, on oval racing, especially from Iowa and everything, you want to go as long as you possibly can, because the last thing you want to do is make a green flag stop and then a yellow come out 2 laps later and you're trapped 2 laps down. So
that's what boned Herta in Iowa. That's what boned
Right.
Dixon and Gateway.
So everyone's game is, okay, how do we go as long as possible and as deep as possible into the stint? Because again, we're not worried about tire deg.
Right.
So how do we manipulate the fuel to, I mean, we were even trying to, at one point we were considering a crazy downforce level because it was going to buy us extra laps. Right. And so for us on the 7 side, we made the decision, even though we were not starting in the back, we were starting 13th. We were like, okay, if there's an early yellow, we're going to take it, because we're probably going to be the leaders on that strategy, because no one from 10th is going to give up the track position and take that yellow, right? And what it's going to do is, even if it's a yellow 5 or 6 laps into the race, that's going to buy us 5 or 6 laps more than the leaders are going to get every stint. And so you're going to Vegas and hoping that in those 5 or 6 laps that they're pitting, you're not, and then you cycle to the front, you trap them laps down, you're all of a sudden in control of the race. Boom. So that's what you were seeing, why there were so many strategies, because even if guys didn't take that first yellow, maybe they took the second one, right? So everyone was trying to find a way that, how am I going to just keep fuel in the car to continually go longer than the top 4 cars, in hopes that I'm extending my window long enough to trap them if yellow does come. So that's kind of why that race was what it was. Ultimately, none of those yellows really fell in the way to flip the field. Like, obviously you had various guys get trapped, but it wasn't, super unlucky for your Powers, your Josephs, your Davids, McLaughlin's, that sort of thing. So that's why we saw that. I think you'll see the exact same thing in Milwaukee, honestly, and probably Nashville as well.
So, okay. So how do we want to attack the order of things? Let's start with what happened to you. Obviously, you found yourself, your race was going well. You found yourself up in the top 5 with that restart. How did you get there? And then we'll get into the restart.
Yeah. So, I mean, we were very good, except when we had to trim. So Indy cars are a fickle bitch. And there's a lot that goes into making them work well. And because the tire that we all tested on was a tire that trimming wasn't an option, we never really tried to trim, right? And so we got into practice 1 and we were like, man, people are trimming and going fast. Like, we need to start doing this. And with it being a 60-minute practice and that sort of thing, we were on the back foot a little bit. We went into qualifying guessing. Unfortunately, like, Nolan's run was not very good, but like, he had some other issues, so we couldn't read a lot into that. So we stuck with a pretty aggressive, trim for us, hoping that was just the right decision. It wasn't. Pato got the benefit of that, so added downforce and had a little bit of a nicer run. But long story short is, even our cars were not in the same window of performance when we started taking downforce off, and that's because of a multitude of reasons. It's not just grip, it's ride height windows you're in, it's different types of aero pieces that you may or may not have on the car. Like, there's a lot of different things that contribute to that. So anyways, when we got into practice 2, we were super happy. The car was back into its happy place at max downforce and everything was good. So we knew that we were a little bit out of position in the race. And our goal was to take every opportunity to put fuel in the car that we could in order to get clean track and that sort of thing. And the strategy went very well for us. The first overcut that we did, we pulled back almost 6 seconds on the leaders. So clean air pace was good. And nothing really went against us from a yellow standpoint. So yeah, we kind of had the pace and we were on the strategy to be able to have the clean air and just pick off people through overcuts and that sort of thing. So we were 5th, for that penultimate restart, I think we had a good shot at definitely being on the podium. And then the restart happened, and there's a lot of contributing factors. I've had a lot of time to look into all of the facts and the information and the data behind it. And I'm not going to get into all of that because it's not going to do anyone any good. But I truly believe the root cause of the incident that happened is a result of a rule change, which we all agreed upon and is a good rule change. But this is, as anything in life, you don't know potential outcomes, good or bad, until you experience them. You can't predict everything. So going into this year, we obviously knew that there was a huge issue on road and street courses with being able to pass as soon as the green flag came out. So what was done was we implemented a restart line that you cannot pass on road and street courses before said line. And so then the days of Laguna 2023 and Nashville 21-22, that should all go away, where you're not crashing before you even get to the start finish line. And that has been received very well. It was unanimous. It's been effective. Great. Well, on ovals, there was a big issue last year with people jumping starts, especially at the 500 further back in the pack. And the majority agreed, some didn't, but the majority agreed that, okay, we don't want a restart line per se, because especially at Indy, and keep in mind that Indy was our first oval race this year. So a lot of these discussions were going in to try and keep Indianapolis and the 500 the same and not neuter that race, right? And so we were like, we don't want to install this line, because part of what's awesome about Indy is like 3-4 wide restarts going into turn one and that sort of thing. And it gives people an opportunity to recover, and it's a great show, right? So we don't want to get rid of that. But also, like, we got to get rid of these people taking the piss in 15th on restarts and getting up to 7th because they're jumping the start. And so the way that IndyCar and the drivers came up with a rule to eliminate that was, all right, we can't police. It's too hard. They admitted it's too hard for us to deem what a jump start is versus just a good restart, right? So the rule is you cannot be out of line, and you need to be like within a car length and a half of the car in front of you. Like, there's no big gaps. There's no staggered offsets. There's no sort of thing that would allow you to like run up to someone's side pod before it's green, that sort of thing. So they eliminated that. And I think the restarts at Indy were banging. I think Iowa, the restarts were fine. A lot of people got penalized because they were out of line at the restart, or they were leaving excessive gaps. So like the rules were being enforced and everything was going well. What happened was he was not maintaining pace car speed, but like, that's really hard to police. Fine.
Do you know what pace car speed is at that point? Like a number? Or is it just like how fast the pace car was going when it pulled off? Yeah,
it's not, there's not a hard number, right?
Okay.
Like,
so that's what makes that hard to police.
100%. Maybe there should be. Maybe it should be like the pace car is doing 105, and that is the speed that we have to do a restart plus or minus 5 miles an hour, right? He was altering his speed. It's his decision if he wants to go early or late. Like, I don't have a problem with that. Where the problem arose is he decided to go so late that race control threw the green not off of his throttle response.
So normally the procedure is race control sees all the throttles on the car. When they see the leader go to full throttle and start to accelerate, then they'll throw the green.
Right. He went so late, the race control was like, we're doing it ourselves. And so what then happens is you've got McLaughlin, Colton, Power, me, right? All of us, all of us are trying to get a jump on a restart. Like, none of us are just content to, okay, let's just sit there and drive around in the same position, right? And through that, there's always a little bit of anticipation that's existing, because it's like, and that anticipation's building because you're going all the way through the restart zone. Nothing's happened. So like that anticipation's building. What caught me out, and I don't know what caught Colton out, because I think Colton and his movement is a little bit of what kind of started some of this, is you have to be so close to the car in front of you. You can't be out of line. You have to really just judge your decision on when to go based on when the car directly in front of you goes, because you can't see the leader anymore. Because it used to be you would be offline a little bit staring at the leader, right? And just kind of going when he went. Now you have to be like in line with the car in front of you. So for my side, what I saw was I saw, heard, and watched power accelerate. I saw, heard a green light panel and green from the spotter. And so I went. The next thing I know, like I didn't even hit the brake. The next thing I know is I'm in the air. Like it wasn't even an attempt of anything, right? Like it was such a mistiming of because at this point, Joseph hadn't even gone yet. So like everyone sees green and expects it's going, because all of the restarts we've done have been on the leader going. It's called green based on the leader going. So like everyone would expect that everyone's going.
You're accelerating and you're all full throttle before the call for green ever actually happens, right?
Most of the time. But in this case, it wasn't.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. From your perspective, from everybody in the line's perspective, when your spotter starts yelling green, 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 because race control said green, green, green.
Second, third gear.
You're like, I'm at 10% throttle in second gear. Like that's normally you're full throttle. You're already pulling gears. You're gaining that momentum, and then the green call is what lets you kind of start pulling out a line or whatever.
Passing.
But you're already moving. So this is, I think, 100%. Where it must have been such a mind for everybody. And yeah, I'm surprised there wasn't more calamity, to be honest.
So I have a dumb question.
And that's why we have you here.
So if it's green and you can go, and this isn't on you, Alex, but like, why wouldn't Scott pull around and just pass Joseph? Is it just like he's getting sucked into that, or it's just so unexpected?
No, because you get a drive through. It's not a little penalty. You get a drive through if you are out of line.
Got it.
Before it goes green. So you cannot move. You have to be in their tire tracks, right? And so the fact that race control, it went green before Scott wouldn't have known that race control was about to push the button.
Got it. Okay.
No one would have expected that. And quite frankly, in the past, race control has called off restarts for being too slow. So like,
yeah, it seems weird that it wasn't just called off.
It's very weird. And I'm not saying, again, by the letter of the law, race control didn't do anything wrong either. But like, it's very weird that race control is calling green, not off leader acceleration. Like it Yeah.
Like with how late, because here's the only question I had, right? In the driver's meeting, there's a page in the document that has the quote unquote restart zone. Now, granted, it is a hand drawing with a squiggled grayed out bit of racetrack that you're eyeballing as the restart zone.
Yeah, it's not like Cup where there's a
line on the track. There used to be. We used to have cones and fences and lines on track, and it was voted to get rid of that because people were anticipating that line. And so if the leader didn't want to go till the end, the person in second or third or whatever could be like, well, he has to go by then. And so if he hasn't gone by now, I can run up on him. And so they got rid of the line visually. I think we've, for the first time, seen the fallout, from that, the collateral damage of that. But when I looked back,
go ahead.
Sorry. When I looked back at because I've seen that map. I looked at that map again, and I kind of looked back at where Joseph was on track when the green went on. It looked to me like he was well past what IndyCar had designated as the restart zone. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I can't overlay the camera, whatever. But when I eyeballed it, I'm like, they probably should have just thrown the yellow, because he was nowhere. He looked to be way past what was the grayed out section on the track map that outlined the restart zone in the pre-event document. Maybe I'm wrong. That's how it looked to me. But when I take all your points and I agree with all of it, like everybody had to stay close. It's so, even if you're in the car and you hear the call green, right? And per the rules that at that point you can pull out and pass the guy. There's just no scenario where you've ever not already been accelerating that you wouldn't, like you say, you're like trigger shy about pulling out because the penalty is so big.
Well, and so That rule's changing. So for Milwaukee, they're getting rid of that.
Which part?
You can't be out of line.
Oh.
So whether that brings back jump starts or not, I don't know, but it will certainly make this sort of thing less difficult? ?
I don't know, man. Like, even if you're half a car width fanned out.
No, it'd be fine. Like, I've had plenty of these sort of things where like being half a car width out gives you enough of a pop to be okay.
Shouldn't man, I don't know. Because Townsend
what's your
and I
solution?
Townsend and I argue about this all the time. He thinks that the lack of being able to fan has created these problems. And I certainly understand that point, but I also believe that has done a really good job in, curtailing the amount of jump starts that we see. And it's also very easy to police, right? The guy's in line, he's not. If the green light's on and he's out of line, penalty.
Potentially the next thing is, you keep the rule the same. And I love how we're having maybe race control's listening. If you're listening, maybe this is an idea. Don't call the green without the leader going.
That's what I'm saying is like you have your designated spot on the racetrack.
If he's not going, you wave it off.
You wave it off. And you just say two, like that. To me, that's a better, because it has been working, right? We found a flaw, but I don't know if changing the fundamentals of that is the right call. I don't know. That's beyond my pay grade. The one point I did want to make though is Joseph copped a lot of after the race, which even if he was completely screwing around, right? Which I think with hindsight and looking at it, no, he was pushing things to the limit, right? We agree that the variation in speed wasn't enough to really, it's nothing that any of us haven't done. But at the end of the day, anybody that was upset he didn't get a penalty, they're really upset at race control. Right? Like Joseph doesn't decide whether or not he gets a penalty. So like, even if he was completely around, don't hate the player, hate the game, right? Like if race control is the one that's dishing out the penalties and you think he deserves a penalty, don't go hating on the driver. That's kind of right? That one I thought was a little bit weird. You want to be mad at race control for the call, fine, but like, don't take it out on the guy won the race per the rules as race control saw it. That's what any driver is going to try to do, right?
Yeah, you guys are always going to push the limit.
Right. So I just thought he copped a little too much flack in the aftermath.
Why was there such an outsized reaction from the drivers? Because you saw Colton really upset, you saw Will really upset, you saw Alex, I assume presumably you weren't thrilled.
Because he was dicking around, again, not so much so to get a penalty, but he was dicking around for so long, for all of 3 and 4. Everyone was pissed because it's like, what the are you doing? Right?
Why aren't we going yet?
So then there's an incident. And so everyone is already pissed that he's dicking around. And that's where that's where that reaction comes from, because it was him that was doing it. So again,
the accident was a result of his decisions.
Correct. Without a doubt.
Happy to say that. And so, yes, anybody that was involved in the accident can be mad at the person whose decisions led to the accident, even if they were still within the letter of the law.
And that's all we're saying.
I think that's what it is. It's like the unspoken agreement amongst drivers is that one just kind of pushed the boundaries a little bit for sure. The other one that I want to just touch on quick was the Malukas power thing, because between the Joseph thing and then Power not getting a penalty for the Malukas thing, everyone's going on this whole, the two Penske cars don't get penalties, but then Colton gets a blocking penalty. Okay. The Malukas thing, if you look at it, and I said this on the broadcast, it was just a situational awareness lapse from Will. Will did not do anything illegal, right? He did not pinch it. He did not put him down. He did not hit him. He left him a car width. The problem is Malukas was running right up onto the back of Kyle, who was a lap down. You know that's going to create understeer in a car, right? So if I'm Will, I'm looking at him closing in on Kyle. I'm like, Kyle's going slower than I am. I've got the momentum. I'm going to open my hands enough so that way when David gets understeer, he doesn't hit me and take me out. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, Will got away with it in the sense that when they touched, it wasn't Will that went out, it was David. I'm not saying that, obviously that wasn't his intention. And, David's even come out and said that Will called him afterwards and apologized for pinching him. Will was mad at David. He heard him say in the post-race interview, like, Will just came and screamed at me in the med center because that's the yellow that led to the incident that got, so he's like, why'd you crash? Because now I'm out of the race. Well, so I think Will acknowledges that he probably could have left him more room, but he didn't do anything illegal. So like, again, race control didn't do anything wrong. There was no favoritism being played there. If you look at the word of the law, he was fine. Whenever a car's trying to make a pass, David was trying to pass Will. The race control, the stewards put more emphasis of responsibility on the passing car. That's part of the deal. And he didn't leave himself enough room, also knowing that he was heading up to the back of a slower car and was going to have understeer, to not touch Will. So like that one is a racing deal, plain and simple. And we've gone through the restart one. So yeah, there was a lot of angry people after the race. And I think a lot of it was just didn't have all the information. So hopefully that's what some of the light that got shed in this show was on. But I do want to end, unless there's anything else, Gateway, you want to touch on, Alejandro. Again, sorry that your race got ruined because that was a great result you had going. And it's a bummer that it ended that way, especially so late in a race. Like there's nothing worse than crashing out. Like you've worked so hard.
I haven't been that angry in a very long time. I was very, very, very upset.
I can imagine. I saw some of the text messages. I get it. It's and you had every right to be because it sucks, man. When you've worked that hard all night long and you're so close to a strong result, it's just such a pain.
Well, that coupled with the 3 weeks of like rehab to try and get back and ready for the race, like it was. But
well,
anyways,
that was obviously my like immediate concern was, you've hit something with the front, so the wheel does this. I'm like, oh no, please just don't.
No, that was a straight to the med center kind of accident for me.
Yeah. But no, so we caught this on camera. I want to end with this funny little story. Just again, we mentioned how Will and David have spoken and everything's good there. And Will and Joseph have spoken and everything's good there. We caught on the broadcast as Will was, storming through the pits. The red flags happen now. Our cameras, our beautiful NBC crew caught Will storming through the pits and caught our Dylan Welch catching up to him, trying to ask him for an interview. Okay. So this is all from like a spotter stand, top of the grandstand shot. And you see them from a distance walking through. And so you see Dylan come up. We just happen to be on the camera on air when this happens. And you see him like come up to him and Will's steaming. And like, so he's half a step behind him and kind of taps his shoulder. And Will just turns around without even just goes, off. And you can see it. Like you can see it from like a half mile away what he says. And we're like, I guess Dylan's not getting that interview. And then he took like 2 steps, stopped, realized what he'd done, turned back around, zipped up his suit and said, sorry, let's. And so he does the interview and his interview was fired up, whatever. So he was, he kind of fixed it. But even in that, Will, to his credit, went through the effort to find Dylan's phone number and called him on Monday to apologize. But he did it in the most willpower way, and I absolutely love this. So Dylan's phone rings, and I asked Dylan if I could tell the story. Dylan's phone rings, and it's a number he doesn't recognize. So he picks it up, he says hello, and the guy on the other side says, "Is this Dylan?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, off. And he started laughing. And then Liz in the background was like, "Will, stop it." He goes, "Yeah, no, hey man, sorry, it's Will. I just want to apologize." And I'm like, that is so good. That's so funny. It's just peak willpower and I'm here for it. And I love it. That guy is just the best. So, yeah. So now we go on to Portland. We have no time to talk about it. So we'll just cover it next week when you guys tune in. And make sure you turn in early next week for part 2 with Jamie Chadwick. And yeah, Alex, best of luck in Portland. We'll see you out there, pal.
Off, Tim.